Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another lovely episode of the Bonanza podcast. We have a guest today. I'm very excited about that. But before we get into that, I'm going to read today's quote, which is a good one. Well, all my quotes are good ones. How dare me. Today's quote is from Friedrich Nietzsche. No one can construct for you the bridge upon which precisely you must cross the stream of life. No one but yourself alone. And again, that's Mr. Friedrich Nietzsche. All right, if I could figure out how to do this again. There we go. I'm such a wizard. I should be a spokesperson for Zoom with all the talking about them that I do, but that's not what we're here to do today. I'm going to bring my guest in. My guest today is a friend of mine. We've been friends for about 10 years, probably around there. And when I started doing stand-up comedy, he was the guy to know in the stand-up comedy realm. He'd been doing it for quite a while. And I was very fortunate enough to be on his podcast, the Pat Oates' Sad Show. When we first started that, I was kind of like his sounding board. And I also had podcast equipment, which you needed 10 years ago. But today you just need a phone, I guess, which is great. And yeah, he's just been a really good friend throughout the years. And I've kind of stopped doing comedy in about 2020, a little before then too, but pretty much the end of it. And he's continued to do it. So we could talk about that and how the world of comedy's changed. But without any further ado, I introduce my good friend, Pat Oates. What's up, Pat?
What's going on, man? How are you?
Oh, I'm really good. I'm great. I think I've got to a point in my life, and I was having a conversation with this about a friend of mine where I just, as things happen in life, because I've noticed this for a very long time, that there's a flow. There's like a good time and a bad time. And the way that I used to deal with it was I would just enjoy the good time as much as I could. And then when the bad times came, I would just try to focus on the good stuff and just kind of weather the storm, which isn't a bad way to do it. I'm not like judging people, but now when things happen, I try more to see what I can learn from it or how it can be a challenge to me for me to grow, and like what maybe, the universe, God, the all, Buddha, whoever you use your deity, what are they trying to show you in that moment? And again, it's not like a perfect practice that I have, but it's really helped me a lot just to not look at myself like I'm a victim to things going on when I could see them as opportunities. How about yourself?
Same. I think it's kind of why we always got along. Is like I believe that the more we fail and the more we admit we don't know, the better we become as people. The worst thing to do is just sit there and go, "Well, I know that." Like when you treat the world like a dating app, where you're like, "I like these things, so you better like these things." Well, you're never going to get better in life. You've just given up. If you like country songs, why would you want to meet someone that knows country songs? You would already know country songs. So in life, I want to meet and experience people that I don't know anything about what they know, so I can learn from them and then move on and grow as a person. And also a great quote that it's dumb that it comes from Tom Hanks because he was talking to a bunch of actors one time, but a great quote he had was, "This too shall pass." And yes, in the worst times ever, you should always tell yourself, "This too shall pass." But in the greatest moments of your life, you need to tell yourself, "This too shall pass." Don't get caught up in the great either and be like, "I'm cocky now, I'm better." Even at that moment, realize you might fall back down. So just keep at that same strive to like grow and become a better person.
Yeah, I've heard something. I think it was something like, be careful how you treat the people on the way up, because they're the ones that are going to be there like on your way down too.
Unless they die.
Yeah,
If you
well,
kill
there's
them, like Caesar style, then you're fine.
yeah, exactly. Well, there's always the hope of that, right? I just want to say a quick shout out to Angela Baby Carson in the chat. And what's up, Robo Honky? Still my favorite YouTube handle ever, Robo Honky.
Yeah, it's also mine now. I just got Robo Honky. He's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly. He's here for a lot of our shows, which is great.
I don't think the first robot they would make is white, but
yeah, it kind of reminds me of like Bender. It's like something Bender would say from Futurama. Yes. But yeah, I want to tell you the story a little bit. Of course, we're going to talk about your life too, but I want to fill you in the story of how I met my current woman, and also kind of fill people in, which I talked about as well, because it's it's kind of like a Brandon like thing, because I know a lot of people who are out there and they're single and they're looking for somebody, And I was the same way, like all the way up until like the summer of 2022. I'm like, well, I want to find a partner, want to find a good woman, but it seemed that like all the good women were kind of taken. And I've tried the dating apps and stuff. And I mean, people know my stances on a lot of different things. So on a dating app, it could be a little overwhelming. But I was at because so I'm a wedding DJ, which most people know. Oh, what's up, Joe? Cosmic Lichens, my friend Joe is hanging out with us today. Cool. So I'm a wedding DJ. I was at a event at a venue where brides and grooms who booked that venue would come hang out, and they would taste all the food and decide, what food they want to have at their upcoming wedding. So this is 2021. So most of the people there were getting married in 2022. And I was talking to a guy, and he was really into a lot of the ideas I was, and we started talking about tarot, and he's like, oh, you got to meet my fiance. So he went and got his fiance. We were talking, I pulled a card for her, and they seemed like really cool people, so we became friends. And they lived in Canton, so we used to go hiking a lot, and we'd hang out and meet up halfway. Sometimes they'd come to me. And this was going on for over a year. And then October, they got married in May. I DJ their wedding. And then in October of 2022, we're all supposed to go hiking. And then just Elizabeth showed up, and we went hiking.
I thought you stole his wife. Holy crap. Like, I didn't know where this was going.
Yeah, no, well, so this is what happens, right? So okay. She shows up, and yeah, that's kind of what happened.
Like, why are you telling this story?
Oh no, you're gonna telling it. It's pretty much public information, public knowledge now.
Okay.
So yeah. So she, at this moment, we went hiking. Halfway through, she pretty much professed her love for me. And so we had a conversation, and she had already had a conversation with her husband at the time about this.
Oh my God.
And so I told her, though, I'm like, listen, we can just be friends. Like, if you want this to go forward, it has to start basically from scratch. And that's what we did in the preceding months. She ended her marriage, and then we ended up getting together. Yeah, I know.
DJ the divorce.
What's that?
Did you DJ the divorce?
Yeah,
we had good ideas of the songs for that one too.
Yeah, exactly. I used to love her.
But I had never mind.
Yeah. But obviously when relationships end, it's because they weren't working. So, and it's funny because I never had this intention in mind. I was going along as just like innocent, silly Brandon, not that like I'm an innocent person, but I was just like, oh yeah, this is great. These guys are good friends. And basically from the start, she was into me, and she just didn't know how to go about it. And she still, ended up going through the marriage, and I guess she wanted to marry me instead. And I was at the wedding, which was even crazier.
Yeah.
But what happened was, and this isn't like me trying to be cocky or, anything, but I mean, well, first of all, I'm a giant, and I mean, look at me and listen to my voice, but the stuff that I was talking about, like all the trauma that I had in my life that I healed and overcame, she saw me more as like a very rare man. Like there's not really a lot of men out there that are looking at themselves in this way. And again, it's not like I'm trying to say that I'm better than anybody. I feel like everybody has their own path in this life, and they have to figure it out for themselves, just like that Nietzsche quote. And I'm there to help anybody, but I can't tell them the way. I've tried that path, right? You can't tell them. So she was really into that, and that's really what I was looking for. And it's funny because my good friend Sharon from the Over Sharon show, the lovely Sharon, shout out to her. She became like, I met her in 2021, early 2021, and we had a lot in common, and she kind of became like a really good friend, and then like a sister almost, like that I've never had. And she told me in the summer of 2022, because I was trying to talk to another woman at the time, and it just wasn't working out. And she's like, you need somebody who's like into tarot and crystals and things that you're into. And again, like I understand what you were saying in the beginning. You don't want somebody that's exactly like you, but maybe at least looks at the world in a similar way. And that's exactly
If
what
they're
happened.
open to also being like you, then yes, they can have some. I just mean when people are just like they know what they think, what they know what they want.
Yeah, 100%.
That's just giving up. It's like,
Oh yeah, no, I totally agree. Cause we could talk about that kind of stuff too. But I felt like when I just stopped trying and then it just kind of happened. So I feel like, I mean, again, everyone's path is different, but for me, I had to learn to let things go. And I just faced the fact that I'm like, you know what, if I just end up alone for the rest of my life, then it's fine. I'll be okay. I'm a really good hermit, as a lot of people that know me know, and I'm really good on my own. So it's not that big of a deal. And I feel like I had to overcome that. And then once I did, it just kind of opened the way for me. But anyway, that's my story. Ask any questions that you want. Obviously I'm like an open book. But yeah, that's how it worked out. And the relationship I have now, we have really good communications. Obviously no one's going to get along 100% of the time and agree on everything, but we have a really good way to talk about it. And one of them is, it's just like if we have some kind of disagreement, I made up this idea and I'm like, why don't we just say, right, we prioritize how important it is to us, right? So I'll say, oh, like for example, we have a slider in the back and I like to leave it open. And then there's a neighbor cat that comes up that'll harass our cats. So she's always not a fan. So sometimes we'll be like, no, we should keep it open. And then I'm like, well, how important is this to you? I'm like, she's like, this is like a 10. I'm like, well, it's only a 2 to me. So that's fine. Let's just shut it. So that's just a simple one thing we've worked on. But I've noticed that just communicating myself better is in just explaining how I mean, because you say something and people just take it a different way and it can lead to an argument. So but it's been working out really well. And again, nothing is exactly perfect or it's all perfect, right?
it's as perfect as you need it to be. It only has to be perfect to you and to her. It doesn't need to be perfect to anybody else, and that's all that matters. But if you guys do get married, maybe you DJ the wedding. Don't let another DJ in. That could be an issue. I'm not saying anything about her. I'm just saying
Maybe I
she
should get
likes
a woman
She's a
DJ.
Pied Piper fan, maybe.
Yeah, exactly.
But I'm happy for you because I've known you since all the stages. The single and always ready to mingle, Brandon. The women are getting in the way of me growing, Brandon. I've known all of those. So it's wonderful to see that your heart is open and you did wait, which a lot of people can't do, like you're saying. Some people feel like they're incomplete if they don't have another person with them because they feel like that validates who they are as a person. But once you can realize a relationship isn't you two becoming one thing, and it should be someone that makes you happy in the times where you're trying to be more yourself, that's when you're happy. That's what it sounds like this became. You weren't looking for it. They always say, when you're not looking for love, it finds you. And that's what happened there. I mean, yes, most people don't look in the woods for it. Usually you get a lot more trouble if you're in the woods looking for love with two people. That usually ends in murder, but yours ended in love. So that's great.
There's still time for murder, though. You never know.
There's always time for murder.
There's always
There's
time
one
for murder.
theme we can share tonight.
Sounds like a name
Robot,
of
or
a
whatever
book
your name
we
is.
should write.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. I mean, we were hanging out a lot more before the world got put in timeout for a little bit. And then things went out the separate ways and stuff. But we've tried to keep communication. But I was getting out of a superiorly toxic, and you know this because you were one of the people who's close to me, relationship, to the point where I had to shut everything down and couldn't trust what I always, you knew me, I was always just open for things and moving on in life and going with the flow, if you will. I'm someone who on the outside, because my comedy and everything seems a little gruff, but when you know me on the inside, very caring person. When someone's inside, I care more than anything. And I got real hurt, real bad. And it got to the point where I had to do therapy for, narcissistic, toxic things and that nature for 3 years, shutting it all down. And just recently, for the first time, let someone back in for the first time ever. And that didn't work out. It was because that person was going through the things that you were saying before. And other people they were afraid of communication their whole lives. I over communicate. The stimulation was so much for them. They were so happy for 2 or 3 days. And then one day got scared that they felt like they weren't being themselves. And we realized right there, you aren't ready for the kind of relationship I would like. So it was the weirdest, we liked each other too much to be together type deal. If you can understand, because they weren't ready for this thing and it wouldn't have been ready. That'd be like me 2 years ago trying to date someone when I knew I had to hide from the world. So you can't, it hurts but also in a good way, it was the first time in 3 years I realized, oh, I can care again. I didn't think I could again. So it was a wonderful blessing in disguise type deal. And it made me feel better about that stuff. But I'm just literally not, like you said, not looking. It'd be nice to be with. But I've got so many other focuses in my life that if somebody wants to come on board, awesome. But if you don't, or you think that the way I'm doing things isn't fit you, I'm cool with that too. And you go on being you.
Yeah, I think that's great because you guys are both at least mature enough to realize that it wasn't going to work out, and you didn't have to take like 10 years to figure that out, or a year or 2 years or whatever it is.
To be honest, and not trying to back, I don't know if they were mature enough to handle it because they kind of ran away from a thing, but I didn't become the person I would have been years ago and been like, oh my God, why are you running? And then freak out like crazy. Like we still have that in our head. It's just, you and I were both raised in a kind of way where it's like, hey, keep your feelings quiet. And then like now we've learned to keep our feelings out. And certain times we're still like, are we doing the wrong thing? But I've lost anger in my life, and anger is not even, it's not a thing needed. Like I'd rather cry than be upset. I'd rather talk than sit there and be quiet. Like it'll never help to go, well, you hurt me. Yeah, maybe you did, but this too shall pass. You know, like I said before, that all these things will continue to be okay. I've had many people in my life for small moments and thought they were the one, and I don't even remember their last name now. You know what I mean? Our lives are all these moments where we think this is the person. Go back through your DMs from 6-7 years ago and look and see the person you were talking. Like, oh my God, I spoke to that person. I forgot they were a person. So it's like we do move forward. So
Yeah, 100%. And I think what you said about anger is important because, you know, though a lot of people demonize anger, I don't think anger in itself, there's anything wrong with it. In my life, I just kind of use it as an indicator. You know, it's like a warning light that comes on your dashboard. You know, if you're getting mad at it, like, all right, well, what's causing this anger? You know, and you can kind of look at it. So
see, that's the key. As long as you look at it and say, because you can't just say it's anger for anger's sake. The anger is the result of something else that's bothering you. You have questions, you have worries, you have concerns. Someone else is upset. Are they mad at you, or are they mad at something else in life, or they just need a sounding board? Coming back with your own anger just for confrontation, nothing gets solved from anger. A question might get asked from anger, but just to go, well, then fuck you, I don't give a fuck. Nothing will come out of that. You're just putting up more walls. You're making everything worse. So let the anger go. Take that second and go, why are we quote unquote angry? And then you realize it's not even anger that's really there. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it unless you thrive in it and think that's your shit.
Yeah, and you can always use somebody else's anger directed toward you. It's just energy. And if you realize that you don't have to take it personally, because like you said, you don't know, this person could be having a bad day and they could be pissed off at their wife and they just find you in the McDonald's drive-thru that they want to yell at or whatever, you know? So yeah, 100%. It's good to see
a drive-thru yelling is worth it though. Like that, you're paying for it.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost like a hooker that you yell at.
I was at this restaurant, I think it was like Thursday night. It's just picking up some food, and it's like a nicer restaurant, and there was this guy in there, probably some brand of like Indian or maybe Pakistani, but he definitely talked like he was had been living here maybe his whole life, and definitely looked like some rich guy in this area, you know, I'm sure. And he was like freaking out about not having his food. He's like, I've been here for like a fucking hour. And I just looked at him and I almost said something, like he wasn't saying anything to me, but these poor ladies at the place, you know, it was like this one of the hostesses and a waitress, you know. And but I ended up I stood there for a little while to make sure he wasn't really going to do anything, and then I left. But yeah, I was just like, what is this? They just think the whole world's like about them. It's hilarious.
Well, and I hate to use the cliche thing, but when you see someone angry in public, it's because have someone angry at them at home. I mean, it's their way of this is how I get to have dominance in my life for a minute to feel that thing again. So I used to laugh at those things, but now I feel for that person. And I'm almost like, go ahead. If this helps you to yell at me because at home you're catching your shit. And if you yell back at them, now they're catching it everywhere, and life even becomes worse. There's a reason for their lash out. It's an animal that comes at you and bites you for no reason. If they don't have rabies, they're doing that. It's because they're scared or whatever. They're not so much angry at you. They're scared. So that was a
Yeah, yeah.
scared Brandon Indian.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That's a great point. I like that. It's a good way to empathize with people and a good way to look at things. So, let's talk about you a little more though, because you are my guest. What have you been up
Yeah.
to lately?
Comedy and radio. It's what I've really dug the last couple of years into being on radio. And a lot of people, I'd say that, they go, "You mean podcasting, right? Radio's dead." Well, it's not dead. It's just like everything else, evolving. Just like comedy 15 years ago, who cared if you were on social media? But now you need to be on social media to get booked places. You have to have a strong Instagram and TikTok. Your YouTube has to be fire, if you will. All these things have to be there that weren't a thing. So instead of being the old man sitting back, you evolve in that. But this radio is doing the same thing. When I started being a guest on a local morning show in Connecticut, and I really started to enjoy being on it. So I asked the general manager one day, which is another thing I tell all young, not like comics, but just people in life, whenever you see something, you're the same way as me with this, but a lot of people always sit there and question, "I wish I could do that, but I wouldn't know how." Like, well, and I always say, "Did you ask?" And they're like, "What do you mean?" I go, "That's just like a child. Like literally a child, when they see something, they go, 'Can I go there?' And your mom and your dad goes, 'Yes or no.' And if they say no, okay, you can't go. But if they say yes, they wouldn't have gone unless they asked. We go to McDonald's? Yes. You know what? We can't go to McDonald's." So one day I turned to the general manager and I was like, "How can I do radio?" He goes, "You want to learn it?" I go, "Yeah, I want to learn the radio side. I think one day I'd like to have my own morning show or afternoon drive show or comedy type thing." And I like the idea. The one thing podcasts don't do is deal with community and local. And that's what radio always did. And I love that idea about building a community that's listening every morning. Yes, you can talk about every movie and every, tarot card and everything in the world, but no one's talking about what's happening in New Haven on Thursday, or no one's talking about the things that are affecting us in this one area, a spot like that. And I like all coming together and doing that and then building it, especially as a comic, because then these people want to come out and see me perform and things of that nature. So I asked, "Can I learn this?" And he goes, "Yeah, we'll hire you part-time and you'll just learn radio. You won't be talking much. You'll be playing music and learning the radio." So I started learning that. And I kept being on the morning show, Chaz and AJ. And then eventually they were like, last year, they were like, "We like having you on so much. We're going to have you on 2 or 3 times a week as a regular, almost third mic, not every day, but enough." But because I was part-time, then they were also paying me to do that. So now I'm being paid to be a guest and be funny. And on the weekends, learning the radio thing and learning this thing. And now it's something I love as much as comedy, but also keeping comedy in bed. On top of that, when the world went in timeout, I lost all my gigs and everything. So I had to get a job at a retail store. And I was there for a year and thought I was going to give up on comedy. And when they fired me because someone in my life who decided to be a toxic person decided to contact corporate and say I was making jokes about them on podcasts, the company. They said there wasn't that person, but I know for a fact it was that person. But regardless, the greatest blessing ever is that got me fired. Even though I had gone from temporary to assistant store manager in a year and a half, I was moving up. I was not happy because that's not me. I was now free, but I now had an hour's worth of material about working at Big Lots, the retail store. So I made an album based on that. I recorded it a couple months later. It's on Sirius XM and everywhere now. It was my third album, but the first one I ever did with a label. It wasn't on my own. Someone else was recording it and producing it and stuff. And then went full back into comedy. So now I'm doing things I love again. So when everyone says, "How was your COVID?" I'm like, mine was super productive. Like, it was very good for me. I got out of a toxic relationship. I started to learn who I was as a comic again. I became a happier person. I found a new love in radio. And I'm just finding way. Every day I leave my house, I'm leaving my house to say dumb shit for money. And it's the greatest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, I would love to move into that realm of things, and I've been doing some writing. But how's comedy changed, do you think, in the, like, especially the shows and stuff pre the timeout and now after the timeout?
One thing that changed when it first started, when everyone started getting back into being allowed out, if you will, or in, with the spacing and things, people were grateful to be there, but didn't know how to be. It's almost like people forgot how to be amongst each other. So they were there, but they were so nervous about, there's this person wearing a mask, or this person breathing right, or this is the restaurant or venue doing the right thing? Is the comic too close to me? Are they spitting on? There were so many thoughts that nobody could enjoy the actual comedy. So it's not like people were saying, oh, I think people are getting more offended. They weren't getting more offended. They were more distracted. And I think a lot of people didn't want to say that, so they said they were offended. But then what happened was everyone started complaining about canceling and things of that nature. But that was only happening on keyboards and behind screens. When people came out and we started being able to sit next to each other and masks came off, everybody was just so happy to laugh that they were laughing more. Everything that everyone's like, oh, you can't say this, you can't say that. Those people aren't going to comedy shows. They're just lifeguards, but they're never going in the water. Right now, when I'm more than ever, I'm more free to say whatever I want. And as long as you make it funny, these audiences are on board. And the ones that aren't, that groan is not that, I'm mad. It's a real, oh my God, am I allowed to laugh? It's a more, you're listening more feelings out of people now more than ever, because for a while they didn't think they'd be allowed to do that again. So weirdly enough, even though it looks like online that no one's allowed to say anything, that's just the perception we're getting through media in here. When people come to a comedy club, they are not. When I'm performing with Mohegan all the time or Stress Factory in Bridgeport, people are laughing at the craziest stuff. I've always known me in my comedy. I'm pushing more boundaries and angles, the way I'm talking, making it funny. As long as we craft it well, they are on board to laugh and listen, because I think they're almost waiting to see if they are offended so they can laugh or not laugh. And it's even more of a dangerous but fun time.
Oh, that's really amazing. And I kind of noticed a parallel a little bit in the business I'm in the wedding DJ business, because during 2020 we were still doing some weddings. But when everything kind of opened up in the spring of like 2021, people were just going crazy. Like they were going out like they've never partied before. It was really intense, which was great for me. And then there was like a lull in like 2022. And I noticed, like, especially the older folks that were there, which is usually like my bread and butter, because they'll usually dance all night to whatever song. They don't care, they're just happy to be out there. They were more like getting tired or whatever it was, and they were just getting burnt out. And I think it's because they were going too hard. But it seems like it's back to normal. But I do see a lot of changes. People now are a lot more forgiving. They're not as entitled, I guess you could say. Like people I work with are a lot more thankful, and they expect a lot less. But of course I still provide, and I've been like killing it with weddings lately. Been having such a great time, which is a lot of fun for me. But yeah, I've noticed that. So I really look at this whole thing that happened in 2020. A lot of people look at it as a victim, no matter what side you're on, whether you think it's real or not, right? We'll just keep it that way. A lot of people are victims. A lot of people have anger or whatever. And I just see that for me. And like you said, in your own life, you had a really good experience. You got to work at this place and you got comedy out of it. And you got to have a lot of good times because of it. And same thing with me. I was able to get a lot of stuff done that I hadn't before. And I was able to actually even work on myself further and come to a lot of different insights. And another thing I wanted to say too about what you're saying with the radio thing and the podcast kind of blew my mind, because with the internet, just like we were talking in the beginning of the show, like all the people who like country music can get together in groups, right? Whatever it is, everybody, whatever they like, they can flock to it. But then these groups become like echo chambers, and they don't ever want to hear like another opinion, and everybody is at home all day. It's kind of like that episode of South Park where Randy Marsh is when he's the troll, everyone's just in front of their keyboard voicing these opinions that it's like, who cares about your opinion? Just because you have a Facebook doesn't mean, right? So, but the local thing is so much better. That's another reason why I want to start doing comedy again, because you're interacting with people around you, and you might not all agree on something, but you can laugh at stuff that you all find funny. You'll be in a room and you have this one guy up there that could take all these ideas and make you laugh. And I think that is so important. And what you're doing with the radio, I think, is cool too, because it's the same thing. It's that Connecticut, New Haven kind of local pride. And we could get people together again and get them out of their houses, even if it's for one night, off the computer and off their phone, maybe even if it's for like a couple hours. And I think that's very important to to just try to maintain like some level of civility just in society, because what I see is a lot of people just get stuck on the internet and then they go into these echo chambers and then they kind of just ignore everybody around them. But maybe that's just Connecticut, who knows?
No, it's the world. I think the Andy Warhol thing became more true than anyone in the world. When everybody gets their 15 minutes, he didn't think everyone get their own Instagram page or Facebook, or literally you can find out about everyone. So everyone believes now they have a voice. Now, there's nothing wrong with having a voice, but we got so globalized. Like when we were younger, there was parts of this world that you never thought you'd see. And now with one button, you can see it, know it, learn everything. So you almost take it for granted, these things. And I think the more we've become global, we need to become small villages again. And I think with comedy and radio, we become the storytellers. Now, yes, it's great that other people want to have thoughts, but what the better times were better when one person, the comedian, one person, the radio voice, was the person who spoke, everyone else listened, and then afterwards formed their own opinions based on it. Didn't during the story decide that, oh, well, my storytelling is better than this one, even though I haven't heard the whole story yet. And let me just start yelling or saying whatever, because then other people get on board, then everyone will like what I'm saying. No one cared if they were liked for their opinion. They just wanted to learn or laugh or cry or whatever, so they could have something new in their head that helped them form new opinions. And I think that's what I like about comedy and radio. And I think people are on board with that again. And getting back to what you said before with the whole thing, yes, whatever you believe in what was how COVID happened, we can all agree that something did happen and we did change. As a people, we changed way more than 9/11. Because 9/11, we all kind of came together as America for a couple minutes and we hugged hands and said, yeah, no one's going to fuck with us, America. Then that kind of went away. We weren't told what to do. We think we were, but at the end of the day, yeah, TSA is a little wackier. But besides that, it's really not different from then. So many things have been told to us now that we can't do, and a lot of people complied. But now when people don't comply, after the first couple of months, the people that do comply aren't now mad or upset. They just go, oh, okay, you go that route, I go that route. We're kind of just we all just look and nod. If I see somebody with a mask or whatever, I respect their opinion to do whatever they want to do. I don't now get mad at them, but they also don't get mad at me for being me. We go through these paths. And I think that's a good thing. And I think that is making us more local and care more, that we kind of went through this thing of like, oh yeah, we're all fucked. Like there's no free. It's like, we're like, you can either be the guy who gets the free lunch and better food in prison, or the guy who gets fucked in prison. Either way, we're both in prison. We're just both kind of looking at how we're fucking mingling around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. And something I was gonna say about what you were saying, it kind of slipped my mind. But no, I like what you said there, because it really seems, oh, that's what I was gonna say. 9/11 brought us together, in 2020, like, brought us apart, physically too, where you couldn't be next to each other.
If we could drive a plane into the Wuhan Center, we'd be fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We got to balance it.
Got to work it together.
But it's funny because, like you said, just
like you say 9/11 and then get in trouble.
9/11. Oh yes, the Asian jokes are strong. Yeah, I think if we just stop letting Asians drive, we'll be all right. That's the key.
Right.
God will finally be like, you figured it out. You can live in paradise now.
They don't even need a plane to just drive a car poorly into a center.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it is. But the thing about what you said about 9/11 is so true. Everyone came together and then they just drifted apart. And then with this whole 2020, everyone was kind of forced apart, but now they're coming back together. It seems, it's like a rebellion. Even everybody who abided by everything, a lot of people have this rebellious streak because nobody wants to be told what to do. They always kind of want to do the opposite. It's like a psychological thing when you like tell a kid not to do something that you want them to do. What do they call that? Reverse psychology.
Right.
So I think that's also something that's kind of happened. But what do you think with the shows now, as opposed to like how they are now, as opposed to how they were like in the mid 2012 to like up to like 20?
I think they are the same now. I think the only difference is that because comedy is in the biggest boom, way bigger than there is so much more comedy out there now than ever before. There are so many more comedians doing theaters than ever before because of the internet and blowing up. When you become big, you don't need management and agents and things of that nature. When you become a big comic, you can now work through your own network of YouTube and podcasts and all that and be your self-promoter. You don't need other people pushing you or promoting you and doing all that. So therefore, they're building these armies. Like when Kiss was like the Kiss Army, and everyone's like, well, why would you either loved Kiss or like someone like me was like, why would you like this horseshit? Because it felt like you were supporting someone and helping them grow. And with comedy, that's what's happening everywhere. And there's so much more ways to be funny now. You can, so many people are like, how many people you meet in your life when you said you did comedy? And they go, I'd love to do that, but I could never go on stage. And you really would get to know them. And some people would say, you're like, oh, you're not funny. But you'd meet some people and go, wow, you really are hilarious. I wish there was a way for you to be hilarious without having that fear. YouTube stars, TikTok star. You can now be hilarious. You can now find ways to do small sketches, things you thought you had to be on Saturday Night Live for and all that. And then you build a person who you are because you've learned a way to be confident. You can now do it through there and then put your toe in the water for live stuff because you now have confidence that you've built up because you were allowed to try first instead of having to dive in face first. So there's so much more out there that it's almost become more niche. I love this guy. It used to be, I like crowd work guys, or I like storytellers, or I like, one-liners. But now it's like, no, I like this specific guy. He's from Binghamton, Alabama, and I know everything about him. And also when you go watch a comic now, you're not like, you used to go watch their set, but you didn't know anything about them. Now, before you go watch them perform, you know everything about their lives through their podcasts and their stories and everything they share, that you feel like you're going to see a friend tell you the story. So when they get a special that goes out, you're watching it with pride because you've watched this guy grow, and now you're almost there, like at his graduation, if you will. So I think there's more love for it too.
Yeah, 100%. I think also because what we see as going on in the world, because, going back to what you said before about everybody being offended, and you're like, that's what they say on the computer and TV and stuff, but in real life, it's not that way. And I was going to be like, wait, you mean the media they're lying to us?
What?
So,
I would never say
that. Yeah. So, in 2022, I went on a month-long road trip pretty much all around the country. I went out to like Colorado, Arizona. I also hit like South Carolina, Georgia, Florida, Virginia, all these places in between. And I noticed every time I stopped somewhere and interacted with people, everybody was like, great, having a nice day, nice to me. It didn't seem like the country was like super divided and we're about to have a civil war, which I might work this into a joke, but it's like, everyone says we're going to have a civil war. And I'm like, people today aren't ready for war. Like they can't even skip lunch without it ruining their whole fucking day. How would they go to a war? But
they would take sweet pictures of the Civil War with a good filter. Like they wouldn't be in it, but they would be there to have a great video and hopefully viral of the Civil War.
Yeah, like selfies, like, oh, like Gettysburg 2, here I am, like Gettysburg 2. If there was that, we'd have to name it Electric Boogaloo. It would have to be some kind of electric war. But so I got my own perspective. I went out and saw for myself how the world really is. And a lot of what you'll see portrayed on the internet news and all this stuff in the media is that, there's all this war going on. It's all terrible. It's all going to end tomorrow. Like all these truthers were saying that on 10/4. I don't know if you heard about this. I didn't hear about it either because I don't pay attention to anything now, but I saw some memes. And I guess on October 4th, the government sent out a tone to everybody's phone. It was like an emergency broadcast system. And everybody was saying that was going to like activate the apocalypse. Like people were saying that there was things in these experimental medical serum injection things where they're saying like they were going to be activated and all this stuff, and there's going to be
your chip was going to get turned on. That's what most people were saying. The chip you didn't know was in you was getting turned on. Exactly. 5G was going wild.
It reminded me, I saw somebody sent me a TikTok video, and the guy was comparing Y2K to this. He's like, it's basically the same shit. So we get caught in all these cycles. It's from one doomsday thing to the next. So I think that also is something that's driving people out to see comedy, which I I really like that aspect of it. So that's something you could say, you know, the media, as terrible as they are, they're getting the people who don't want to be victimized by this. They're getting them out to go see comedy and to have a good time and to laugh and to know what it's like to actually be alive. Because this is one of the reasons why I love to do comedy, because if you can make somebody laugh, um, it's has so many benefits. You're making their day better. You're making, in essence, you're kind of making the world better, but you're also creating common ground for everybody in that room that's laughing. So even if it's something they don't agree with and you get them to laugh, you automatically dispelled a lot of preconceived notions that they might have had, or even like prejudices or whatever it is about it. So yeah, I think that
with what you said before, the media being such a thing where, like, even a couple of years ago, if you said, "Oh, the media is lying," there'd be more backlash than that. But now it's become such a commonplace. It's almost like when you make a joke about, like, "Hey, you know, teachers are sleeping with students." Years ago, you'd be like, "That's awful." Now you're like, "Yeah, that's Florida. That's what they do." Like, you don't even care. It's the same thing. So now, because people are like looking for two things: either people are looking for the real truth of things, and some people go find better news people or better ways to learn, or seems like more so, B, they're just looking for distractions. And what distracts you from the world being scary and lying to you? Laughter. So they're looking for more comedy and things of that nature. When you brought up the alarm thing, 10-5 the next day, I was at the Mohegan Sun performing, and I thought of a joke for that day. I'm like, I probably only have a week to tell this. And I put it up. It's on a YouTube short. It's got a couple, I think it's got near 1,000 views now or something like that. But I just said quickly, and those who got it. I said, did you guys all get the alarm yesterday? And a lot of them clapped. And I said, did you guys all know it was coming? And half of them did. And they go, I feel bad for people who didn't know the alert was coming and they thought they were getting their kid back. And, well, yeah, so I got the perfect amount of laughs and just like, oh, sorry about that Amber Alert joke there. But it got the laugh I wanted. People knew what I was talking about, but I didn't get a backlash because people are like, oh, he's being silly about a thing. And we're back to that point again. 2020, 2021, easy what you joke about, because they were, in a short amount of time, we forgot how to be people around people. Distancing seemed like a good idea, but we were distancing each other from knowing each other. So now we felt really fine saying, get the fuck away from me. You're standing 5 feet away, not 6. We started to learn measurements in our minds real quick. And now we don't mind it. But think about the first time you saw somebody who was a little scared and they weren't scared anymore and you were allowed to hug them or shake their hand again. That was a better hug than you had in a long time. And I think people are looking for verbal hugs again. You know what I mean? So it's better to be out there laughing.
Yeah, I'm making connections one handshake at a time. I was at a wedding with Dwayne, 2021 or maybe or whatever, in the photography.
How's he doing? Good?
Yeah, he's doing really well. The company's doing really well. Yeah. So I got him into crystals. He sent me a picture the other day of a crystal that I got for him. And he's like, I need more. I'm like, the world needs more. But oh yeah, so we were at this wedding and the photographer's really cool, older, like I think he was like a Spanish guy or whatever, and Dwayne was like, oh, he wouldn't shake my hand, he only gave me a fist bump. And Dwayne's like, that bastard. So later at the end of the night, I was like, oh, it was great working with you. I like charged at him with my hand out, and he like just put his hand out and shook it, and like halfway through he realized what he was doing, and Dwayne's like, oh, you're the best. It was funny. But yeah, that's something about comedy, because I feel like, for me anyway, maybe we could start talking about this kind of stuff. But when I was doing comedy toward the end, I was up there basically just like trying to almost lecture people instead of being funny. And then, I see other people doing it and I was getting mad at them because they were talking about things I didn't agree with. But when I went up there, I was basically doing the same thing. And I've had a realization over the past few years. And now who I've been looking at recently as kind of like, an inspiration is just Mitch Hedberg, because he was just so silly and he was just so funny. And it was so simple that anybody can laugh at it. And like you said, you took this thing that everybody knew about, but instead of taking a side on it, you just made it silly and you released the tension behind it, which I think.
Unless you haven't seen your kid in a while, then it wasn't silly. But for everybody else, it was fine.
Well, I mean, unless you have a good sense of humor about it, maybe you didn't like your kid.
That kid's gone.
You're like, thank God he's not back. I thought he was back.
You know what's nice? Sleep nights. full asleep those nights now.
Yeah.
Theo Vaughn is kind of like the modern day Mitch Hedberg. Not in this, he's not a one-liner, but the fact that everything he says is just so silly and ridiculous that you just laugh at the way he thinks. And I think we need people like that more. I wrote an article recently. I started writing those again too, because that was another thing that got taken from me in dealing in a relationship with a toxic person. They kind of made me feel shameful for the ways I shared my life, writing and comedy. And I'm like, oh, I can't do this because then I'm this and that. And I let that all in my head and was like freeing almost start writing again. But I had written an article about when I'm watching open mics, all these young comics are talking about how they can't relate to certain audiences. Oh, like this audience is too old, or this audience is all men, or this audience is gay and not straight. So they're not going to get what I talk about. And I would talk to them about how they need to know. You want to write jokes from your point of view. Even when you're writing stories or books, you want to write from your point of view, but you need to relate to all other points of view. So I was like, the answer is right here at open mics. If you want to know how to relate to women, when a woman goes up on stage, actually watch her. Listen to a woman's point of. She's giving you a woman's point of view for 5 minutes. A lot of you men who do comedy have never really been near a woman. We know that, but that's fine. Or if a gay man goes up, or a black man goes up, or a handicapped person goes up, or a fat person, anyone that's not like you goes up and speaks. Instead of going outside and talking to your friends about how awesome your set was and how great they are and how awesome the two of you are, if you sit there and listen to different points of view, you will now learn how they think and then learn how to write towards how they think, but doing out of your voice. And it's that simple even in life. If we just pay attention, you don't have to like everything you see, but if you pay attention or watch movies or deal with the things that you don't normally listen to all the time or watch or take in, you'll understand how to connect with more people that way. And that's why I think comedy is also gaining too, because we're all getting chances to see so much more.
Yeah, 100%. The only thing I disagree is if there's an Italian up there, just ignore him. I mean,
I said people.
I
was doing a bit about how Italians are the worst. Dude, people were getting so mad. I was just like, I go, Italians, I go, it's the dumbest thing ever. Just like, it's just two people talking like Helen Keller, just yelling out. I go, if you think Al Pacino and De Niro are good actors, you need to not live.
How dare you? You're gonna get us kicked off the Italian news network. I don't know.
That's what I love about Italians, though. They don't care.
Yeah, they don't.
They don't care. They put
a
picture. Their most stereotype picture is on every pizza box. They don't care. They're handing it to you. Yep, that's me.
Yeah, Robo Honky said WAPs aren't people. That's hilarious. Yeah, and again, I'll put a little caveat anyway, but the Italians in Italy are great. It's the ones here in this country that they must have kicked them out.
It's our Jersey Shore Italians that we're talking about, not Italian American Italians.
Yeah, but of course I do love all my Italians. They're great. What would
not East Haven. Go away. All of East Haven.
Just nuke it. Enrico's tinfoil sombrero says, I was just talking about Mitch and Karen's chat not an hour ago. Oh, great synchronicity. A guy asked me if I wanted to buy a frozen banana. I said no, but I'd like a regular banana later. So yes.
Yeah. A burrito is a sleeping bag for ground beef. It's one of my favorite fucking lines anyone's ever said.
So easy.
It's just such a silly thought.
I had something happen to me the other day. Maybe I could ask you. I'll probably still use it at an open mic just to kind of get my legs back. But I was driving with Elizabeth from some hiking place, and we saw a chicken on the right side of the road. And I was like, so I slowed down a little bit, but I wasn't quite sure what to do. And then it just darted across the street. And I look over and there's like a farm over there. And I'm like, why the hell did the chicken cross the road? And I was like, oh,
it's just, but people would laugh very hard at this thing they know. It's programmed. Some of them are already guessing ahead, but some of them are not. And the punchline is, and it literally, if you think about if you want a perfect example of the world thinking too much, the joke we all know more than any other joke in the world is why did chicken cross the road? And it's like that. Someone wrote that. Someone wrote that bit and never thought it was great. And before the internet or any way getting it around, the world learned this bit that this person wrote because it was so relatable. It was so simple because you're asking a question and like everything in life, we think the answer has to be complicated. but everyone doesn't want all these comics trying to write about politics or thoughts or their views. At the end of the day, a nice fart, a stupid noise, a chicken cross the road, getting to the other silliness is the distraction we all need. So we don't need to complicate stuff. That joke is beautiful because why did the chicken cross the road? Dude, obviously to get to the other side. It's life. Like, it's like, why did you do this and this? To get over there. Like, oh shit, I thought it was so much more. No, it's not much more. We overcomplicate shit. It's wonderful. You can do the joke that way. People would just laugh at the silliness of what you did.
And I feel like there's so many tags because just the real life of it. Because I looked over there and I'm like, why did it cross? Like, all its food is over there. All his other chicken friends are there. No one else is crossing the road. Like, all the safety and security is there. And there's just grass over here, woods with like predators.
Well, you also don't know his friends. They might be awful people. Sometimes you need to cross that road.
Could be awful.
I'll be back, but I need to cross that road.
He did run back, or she did run back pretty quickly, though. Yeah, that's kind of the silliness that I'm looking at getting back into, because I can even talk about, like you said, important things that happen in the world and just kind of point out silliness in it.
As long as we make it relatable and it goes more comedy than TED Talk, people will be on board.
Yeah, 100%. And I feel like during 2020 and that whole time, like I was still looking at some of the stuff and laughing, but it was like I was just laughing at reality at that point. I'm like, reality right now is funnier than I can be, so I don't even know what to do right now. But yeah, I'm coming out of that stuff, and I'm feeling like you were saying, it's a time where a lot of people are looking for comedy's booming. You know, every time I have a meeting with people or I'm talking about to wedding clients and they want me to do something a little extra or whatever, and I just tell them, like, don't worry, whatever you want, we'll do it. Like, I did comedy for 7 years. I don't get nervous in front of people, so let's do this. And the first thing they always ask me is like, when are you going to do it again? And can we come see you? So I feel like I have a whole audience right there. I could just start an email list if they'd like to join. And when I put on shows, I could just, email it out to them. That's the other thing, like you said, I wanted to talk about in the beginning of young people, or not even always young people. Sometimes people just looking for a change in their life. They'll come up to me when I'm DJing, or, they'll hear about like comedy or different things I've done. And they're like, how do you do it? What's the secret? And I'm like, there is no secret. The secret is to just go do it and keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. And eventually, in most cases, you'll get good at it if you don't give up on it. And then, a lot of comedians who start out, they're terrible. Like that whole Bill Burr thing. We talked about this a lot though, but he did that joke. What was it? Tim Burr or whatever.
Bill Burr, when he first started, my good friend Mike Hanley was a comic that came up with him, and he always says that, I tell all comics who were like, am I going to be funny? I think my jokes are terrible. I'm like, just realize that Bill Burr's first joke was, I had a brother named Tim Burr. And one of those brilliant comedy minds in the world had that horseshit joke, and he got better. So don't be worried about what you're doing with right now. Just keep the process. You'll learn things, and one day you'll stop saying fucking Tim Burr.
Yeah, I think the key is to just work hard at what you love to do. And I've seen in DJing time and time again, people will come out and try to learn how to do it. Or anybody that says they want to DJ, I'm like, come with me. I will teach you. Like, we need more DJs. We turn away work at our company because, we just don't have enough people. So people will come for like a night or two. And once they see all the work involved in it, they don't want to, they're like, wait, we got to set all this stuff up and we have to drive here a couple hours early and stay and pack it all up and take it home and drive like an hour and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that's part of it. It's not just the glamour of me up here with this microphone. There's a lot that goes behind it. And comedy's the same way. People, when I was doing open mics almost every night or every other night of the week. We were doing something, podcasting. We were always doing something in that vein. And it kind of became our life. And I see the people who kind of either made it or whatever, people that we know that became or making a good living out of it, I'll say, they're always the ones that put it first. Rodney Norman is somebody who we both know really well. And he started out early in his career, but then he put it aside to take care of his family. And then once his family was all set and grown and everything, he just dove into it head first. And then eventually, he gained a really good following, and he's able to do comedy and everything like that. So, but
Rodney's example is even better because he was someone that was doing stand-up comedy forever and had other thoughts of little things here and there, but even at an older age wasn't afraid to watch new avenues open and embrace them. Instead of going, well, being online or social media is not for me, That's where he became all of a sudden this viral sensation, which most people his age would have been like, nope, that's a young person's game. That's stupid. And now was able to, and had this body of work of 20 something years of stand-up comedy ready to give to the world, ready to go. So many people are on social media are brand new comics and don't have the time that they get big and they have nothing to say on stage. This man had everything to say and was just able to do that. So it's amazing to be able to see what he did because he wasn't afraid to be open to new things.
Yeah, and another thing I like about him, not to gush too much, but
I'll always gush about Rodney. He's an
I
amazing
always
man.
will too. He's great.
He's been very great to you and I since the very beginning, and it's just a wonderful
he
guy.
really is.
I just chatted with him the other day about stuff. So,
Yeah,
I have a funny thing that I'll tell you about him missing me in a minute. But go ahead, do your thing first.
Oh, cool. Yeah, amazing. I was going to bring up the fact he's a Christian and he is open to everything and open to everybody. He actually lives more like a Christian, I would say, should, according to the Bible. Like he kind of models his life more after Jesus than most Christians that I know, because like, most Christians will try to just convert you to Christianity and tell you it's the only way or you're going to go to hell. But he never, we talk about Buddhism and all these other things. And I like that he's open to that. And he brings that to his comedy because he's brought so many people together. A lot of people hit me up on the side. One of my friends hit me up and he wanted Rodney to call his wife on her birthday because she was a big fan. So like so many people I didn't even know knew him. And he has just this wide reach of different people with different ideas, but he can make them all laugh. And he's basically telling you to just have a good day at the end of the day. It's great.
He's just being a silly philosopher, and it's a wonderful thing. And that's who he really was in life. He was the first person to ever give me advice in comedy and gave me the best advice to help other people. He came up to me when my second open mic ever, and I got off stage and he just gave me a bit of advice. And it wasn't even like this great thing, but the next time he saw me at a mic, I guess he noticed I was taking the advice. And I thanked him, and he's like, and I saw him go up to someone else and give them advice, and they kind of shoot him off like, who are you? They didn't know who he was because at the time he wasn't a known person. He was just like veteran guy. I didn't even care if he was a veteran or not. Someone paid attention and gave a shit enough to talk to me, and I was open to learn, but he shooed them off, and I'm like, oh, that's weird. He goes, no, that's great too. He's like, I give everyone advice the first time, and if they're not open to it, I will always be friendly and loving and caring, whatever, but I just won't do that again. But if someone lets me talk to them once, I will help them out for the rest of my life. And that's the way I've been. You know me, when I watch a comic, something new, I get excited about jokes. I run up, I have an idea. And if they think I'm just some crazy guy who doesn't know what he's talking about and they shoo me off, I realize not to help them again. But if they listen to what I give them as help, I will now help them forever and how to become a better comic in all that way, because it's just, they're open to learn. But if they're not, I'm not mad at them. It's also, that's their path.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's, people go wrong. Like we were saying earlier, when you try to think that someone else's path or whatever, and you try to give them too much advice, you just got to know sometimes when to back up.
They have to be like everything in life, like quitting drinking, like therapy, like anything in life. They have to be open to it. We can suggest it all we want. If people aren't ready for it, they're not going to accept it or take it in. So it's on them to be ready, but it's on us to be there when they are ready for the help. Instead of going, well, you didn't want my help then, so fuck you. Like, no, that's not helping. That was you just being selfish and trying to say I know stuff, and there's a difference too. So being open, like Rodney is, to like, I will help you whenever. Yeah, I'm not going away as a person. We all need to help each other out in that way. And if you need help later, great. If you're not open to it now, wonderful. Maybe you never will be. Doesn't mean I hate you, but it also doesn't mean that I'm now upset. You know what I mean? And if you need the help, we'll be there.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of advice, do you have any advice for people that might want to dip their toe into comedy or something? Because I have a wide range of people that watch this show. And, in the beginning, I had mostly comedians watching me and watching us and stuff. But now I have people that are into different areas of life. Like I have a friend who's an astrologer, but he really likes comedy and stuff like that. And, I try to give the advice I can, but you're actually in it right now. So what would you say to somebody if they were like, how do I start doing comedy?
You just go to an open mic and you do it. It's to rip off the Band-Aid. If you have any inkling, not just in comedy, but I think in anything in life, if you feel like you want to try to do something, sitting there and saying, oh, I wish I did this, didn't do that, the more and more you sit back and tell yourself you're not going to do it, you're never going to do it. So Just get out of the way. And before you start thinking like, well, I don't know what I'm doing, that's why you go to an open mic. And I think people really need to understand what an open mic is. And I have this battle with young comics all the time and older comics who don't go. We were talking before about people putting in the work. And I think there's two types of people in the world. Michael Jordan was the greatest basketball player ever, not because he was really great in the game. It's because his most work was in practice. He put in the work. He loved practice almost more than the game. In comedy, I've been doing this and writing books on it and all that because I love the process of writing a joke, creating a joke, putting the work in, being around younger people, that eye of the tiger thing, more so than I do the actual performance on stage. That's fine and all, and it gets the laughs, but I like the process of constantly taking my dumb idea and turning it into this thing that becomes universal. We can't do that without practicing. So if you think like, well, I'm not going to be funny, well, you're not supposed to be fucking funny yet. It's not easy. But if you go to an open mic, you're going to see all kinds of levels of people trying things out. You can see what it actually is instead of what you've watched on TV as a finished product. You can't watch Ron Jeremy fuck and then think you're going to be the best at fucking. Like, you've got to watch people real bad at it first. You've got to watch people that don't know what they're doing. You know what I mean? You've got to move on. You can't just watch the best of the best and think that's what I like Chris Rock a lot, so I'm going to be Chris Rock. Well, you're not going to be Chris Rock. But he started somewhere. You've got to start off as Chris Pebble. You know, you've got to go. So just go to a mic and you don't worry about what you're going to say. Just grab the mic, say whatever. It doesn't matter. No one's hoping for you to be funny. There's not going to be an audience there. If there are, it's a couple of drunks who are just there because the bar has a wing special at the same time you're talking. You just go through the motions and then chat with the people that are there, people that are at like a little higher than your level. You don't need to talk to a Bill Burr. You need to talk to Joe Schmo, who's been doing comedy for 4 months, and find out where else he's going. Because the second you get a laugh, that, as you know, Brandon, it's like, I've never done heroin, but I hear that's what it's like. You get that one taste and you're chasing the dragon the rest of the time. That first laugh you ever get from a stranger is an amazing feeling. I've been in front of like 2,000 people, and that laughter still isn't as good as that first time in Naugatuck at an open mic. I made someone laugh that I didn't know, and that feeling of holy shit, that was amazing. So just do it. It's all you can. And then, yes, pay attention. But realize you don't know anything. Realize that you need to keep learning, and don't sit there, like you said before, the other thing. Don't be the guy who wants to show up to be a DJ and go, well, I don't just get to be a DJ. I have to learn other shit. Yeah. The best thing in the world to say is when someone says, do you know what you're doing? Go, no. Can you show me? That's it. Ask questions. But the first thing you have to do is just fucking go. And if you're going to do something in Connecticut, and you see me on here, message me. I'll meet you at a mic, and I'll hold your dumb little hand as you go up there and tell your jokes, and I'll help you out. So, yeah, do it. If you want anything in life, just do it.
I think what people need to realize is, most of the open mics I've been to, the people were supportive there. They want you to do well. They want to laugh. So if you don't, because a lot of people think they're going to go up there, they have this unknown, they don't know what's going to happen. And people ask me, what's it like to bomb? And I'm like, it's fucking hilarious, man. It's like some of the funniest times in my life were when I'm bombing, because I'm up there in front of all these people trying to make them laugh, and they're just not laughing. And I'm like, this is fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I don't even believe in that terminology. People say about bombing. I'm like, you're not bombing. It's just you have more work to do. Like, you have goal, open mic with goal. Like, so the joke didn't connect. Great. Now I've got stuff to work on. Why instead of going, oh, I feel, why didn't it work? The idea is still there. Why didn't it connect? Maybe you don't understand how to tell that joke yet. Maybe the framework isn't good. Maybe there's too much clutter. Maybe you're not delivering it properly. Maybe it's just a thought that you think in your head is there, but you're not being clear with your message set. It's not resonating for some reason. So you have the work to do. So the next open mic, you go there with the goals of how do I change that? You record your audio, you write off the audio, you go and do it. Comedy is nothing but writing to edit to writing to edit to writing to edit. That's all it is, nonstop, until you make this perfect thing. So you just can't be afraid of that fail, because it's not a bomb. And you didn't kill either. Oh, you got laughs on stage? You're supposed to. Like, every time a doctor gives somebody the medicine, he doesn't go, fuck, you killed it. No, he's supposed to. Like, you're doing our job. There's no killing. There's no bombing. It's just constantly growing until we die.
Yeah, it reminds me of something from the Tao Te Ching. It's something we're covering on the Over Sharon show. Go check out that show. It's on this channel, the Brandon Bonanza channel, where it basically tells, it's saying that you don't worry about the finished product. Like, you just do your best and how it comes out, and you don't worry about it. Now, of course, it doesn't mean if you bomb, you don't want to work on it and learn from it, but you're not, your whole demeanor doesn't change no matter what. If it goes well, great. If it sucks, great. We're going to work on it. And there's going to, like you always say, and something I've always heard you say, every show is just a show. There's going to be more shows. It's not the
No
whole
show
show.
matters.
No show
No
matters. That's
show
what it
matters.
is. Yeah, no show
Yeah.
matters. You should put that on a shirt.
They're like, well, I'm at this great venue. I'm at a casino right now. Great. And tomorrow, do you wake up a rich? Tomorrow, do you wake up different? Do you have like 1,000 women now, a harem and all this? Or are you just the same schmuck? Oh, I'm performing in a bar in front of 2 people. Great. When you wake up tomorrow, does life change? Are you homeless now? No. Even if it went great, it went whatever. It's just your constant growth. So like, stop putting so much emphasis on this one thing, this one moment, this one thing. It's all just you getting better as a comic. That's it.
Yeah, 100%. I'm just going to check out the chat now. Everyone's doing Mitch Hedberg jokes. That's great.
Nice.
Not a better thing. We had somebody when we were doing the Oversharing show, one of our friends, that's our friend Joe. Shout out to Joe. He'll probably watch this too. He's from Long Island, like close to the city, but he lived in Florida for a while, joined the army, and then moved to Germany and then stayed there. So he's been there for a while, but really, really funny guy. And he was like,
thank you for your
this
service,
is the
Joe.
Yeah, he's like, this is the only chat on the internet that doesn't make me want to kill myself. So we got that going for us. That's like our best review ever.
It's the only non-suicidal hotline needing chat. That's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. But I guess we could start wrapping this up because we've been going for a good amount of time. But I do want to give you a chance to like shout out your book if you want, and some of the plugs and all that stuff.
Well, the book's there. If anyone's looking for comedy, How Not to Suck at Comedy's on Amazon. But more importantly, if you could just go over to my YouTube channel and go on there. I put a lot of shorts up now, and my podcast, the POS podcast, is also there. But mostly you focus on my comedy and stuff. But more importantly, just find me on social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. And if you're looking to try to do comedy, even if you're not in Connecticut and you just don't know what to do and you're afraid to go to Mike, just ask me. Just be like, hey, man, I'm thinking about doing comedy. Any advice? I'm open to help you out with that stuff. But yeah, if you could support the YouTube channel, that'd be awesome too, because I can monetize very soon. I get a couple more followers, so just get over there. So
yeah, go follow him. I put the link in the chat for the link in the description. I'm sorry for this. So just go in the description, click on his YouTube channel. I can't talk right now, but what is it? Pat Oates Comedy?
Yeah, it's just Pat Oates Comedy, I believe. So
All
just
right,
search my name, you'll find me.
Yeah, it'll come right up. Or when I put in Pat Oates. And,
Yes. Recently, I headlined the Stress Factory in Bridgeport, and they put me on the billboard all over the internet, all over 95 to 91, like the biggest sections, and they spelt my last name wrong. It was Oats. And I was like, God damn it! Even in life, and as you know, our good buddy Dion, I was doing a show with him a week earlier. He drove me to a show, whatever, and he said to me, "Hey, I saw a billboard over by where you guys used to live over there." And he's like, "You want to drive? It's out of the way, but we'll drive. You can look at the billboard." And I was tired that night. I'm like, "Nah, man, I'm good, whatever." And he goes, "Can you just fucking enjoy things in life? Can you just go with me? Go see the, him say, take a picture, send it to your kids. Just be happy for one. You don't have to always be like, things don't matter." No. I go, "I'm fine, man, whatever." So he drives anyway. He drops me off. He drives toward it. He takes a picture of it, sends it to me, and goes, "Here, at least you have one." I'm like, "Oh, I'm happy we didn't fucking go. They spelled my name wrong, asshole." And he's like, "Oh, God, that would have sucked if we drove all that way." But it was so cool with my face, my likeness, and all these people that knew me when I was growing up now saw me all over the place. So whatever, it was fun. So if you spell my name correctly, you can find me on YouTube.
I wonder if people I knew, you're like, I wonder if he dropped the E. They're like, oh, maybe he went with.
Yeah, everybody's just like, oh, they all of a sudden realized my name was the grain and not the name. And they're like, oh, now here come all these jokes that third grade called. They're like, oh, really? Honey Bunches of Quaker? Oh, boom, boom.
Exactly. Yeah, I just wanted to say
thank you so much for having me on. It's great talking to you again. So
yeah, 100%, man. Anytime. And everybody that asks me for have questions that do comedy and hit me up and stuff, go hit up Pat. Go harass him and said he knows a lot more.
Bother or pester me at all? Please hit me up.
Yes, definitely hit him up. And of course, I'll still, talk about these things because it's something I love. But Pat has more knowledge of it, especially at this point. So I'd say go talk to him. And yeah, thanks for coming on. I had a great time. Great conversation. It's good to catch up with all that stuff. And so if anybody wants more of me, go to morelawsmoreproblems.com. It's my website I've had for over 10 years now. You can check out my blog there. I've been nailing it for 10 years basically. So you're welcome, everybody.
Boom.
So
Yeah,
go
it's not
check that
less
out.
problems, less laws now. There's always more problems and more laws. So
Yeah,
keep
yeah,
going.
exactly. And I also recently started recording the Tarot Bowl podcast again. I'm very excited about that. So check that out if you're into tarot, or even if you're not, if you're just into the sound of my lovely voice, you can go there and check that out. And yeah, until next time, everybody, stay cool. I don't know what else to say. I need a catchy catchphrase.
Stay cool does not work at all.
Stay cool, everybody.
Correctamundo.
This is Brandon, and this has been my Bonanza. You're welcome, everybody. See you later.
There you go.
Good night. All right, we're done on YouTube. I'm just gonna